We've got some fresh new young talent doing some things that I know you haven't heard before.
1, 2, 3, listen.
Welcome to Finances, your home for all things financial, investment, money and lifestyle. Hosted and curated by the very talented team of certified financial planners, Burke Britton Financial Partners. Sam Coutts and Durran.
It's one of many
iterations of your name, Shay Durran.
Or Durran as well.
What did I say?
Durran. Hungry like the wolf, I guess. But.
The two newest additions to the Burke Britton team. How long have you been here now, Sam? Shay, let's start with you, Sam.
I started here in January of 2021. So what's that? About a bit over 18 months ago.
Was that mid-pandemic?
It was probably towards the tail end of the pandemic, although I know we
went back into lockdown when you started.
Yep, I had 4 days here and then into lockdown, which was perfect.
For a month, was it? Or
Yep, didn't know what I was doing. It's great.
You still don't know what you're doing?
Nah, may as well be in lockdown.
So 18 months and Shay followed 6 months behind, is that right?
Yep, so I was July, just missed the...
Thanks, Delta. So 12 months in. Are you 12 months in, Shay?
Yep.
What do we call you guys now? What are we?
We're associates.
Are you allowed?
I don't think we are.
No, we can use the phrase associate. We're not financial planners yet. It's enshrined in law.
You did read that email, didn't you?
As I was...
You wrote the email.
Flagged. It was flagged for me.
So are you allowed to continue to use associate advisor or not?
Not advisor, just associate.
Okay.
Just like a blanket associate.
Which I think is what I said right at the start, but you changed it anyway, didn't you?
When does provisional...
When
do we get called provisional advisors?
After Q2 of PY. So after we've completed the phase year exam.
Have a listen to all the acronyms. He's just...
Yeah. We'll have notes in the descriptions if you guys are interested.
We'll do the show notes.
Yeah.
So let's start at the very beginning. Sam, let's start with you.
Yep.
Tell us a bit about yourself. How old are you? Where did you come from? What are you doing here?
What am I doing here? Well, start from the start. I'm 24 now, I think. No, I know I'm 24. So prior, I did my studies, my post school studies at RMIT up in Melbourne. So I effectively did one trimester at Deakin before moving up to RMIT into living in a share house and do my studies from up there. I studied a Bachelor's of Economics and Finance at RMIT.
Did you do any financial planning majors in that?
Yeah, what did that correlate to?
Yeah, I did a couple, but it's correlated to Sweet FA after, hence why I'm currently back at Deakin doing a grad diploma in financial planning while Shay just gets to get off scot-free. And but that's what I did post school. My history with financial planning is I worked for another firm in Geelong for a few years as my dad's a financial advisor as well.
Let's give your old man a shout out.
Give him a plug.
Let's give his business a plug on the podcast. Go for it.
All right. Well, I came from GL Financial Planning, which is where I learned a lot of the basics. I learned how to survive in an office, which I'm still probably learning considering the amount I talk. I'm still probably learning the ropes there, but it gave me a good grounds for when I came in to interview here at Burke Britton back in probably late December in 2020. I had an understanding of the industry. I had an understanding of dealing with clients, working what kind of the whole industry.
Mate, this isn't the interview. Okay, you can relax a little bit now. You sound like you're
going for the promotion.
He's going for the promotion.
You're already into PY, mate. You don't have to. Keep
you're right. Yeah, you're right.
What about prior to that, just quickly? So your dad's a financial advisor. He's been a financial advisor for 20 odd years, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, probably closer to 30.
Okay.
35 or so. A while.
Was it always on the cards for you to move into finance, or did you? Well, you weren't great at music. You weren't great at performance.
Yeah.
Is there anything you were good at? You're good at cricket.
Yeah, good. I'm all right at cricket.
Yeah.
I always liked to think that I was pretty good at other sports, but Falcons never come a knocking, so apparently I couldn't have been that good. And so I don't know. I think when you're at school, you do subjects that you enjoy. I always enjoyed psychology, and the ones that probably the thing that interests me the most is people and communication and getting to understand and know people. So I thought that I don't really want to do psychology. I feel like sometimes it might be a little bit. It might get a little bit too much with some of the people that you might run into.
But did you have any idea when you were at school what you wanted to do?
Nah,
like you said, you
God,
like
no.
people, but
No, God, no. Just something that worked with people.
Okay,
I
very broad.
Didn't want to do a trade. If you saw me now, you'd see that body's not cut out for
You'd
hard
probably
manual
struggle,
labour.
struggle to pick up a bit of 4x2 with
Yeah,
that frame.
yeah. So
Looks like one.
I look like a 4x2. So I figured I'll just try my luck in finance.
Was
and
that
see how I
were
go.
you influenced by your old man with that, like in terms of pursuing economics, finance, or?
Yes and no. I think that it was something that I was familiar with because obviously I'd been around him for doing it for so long. I understood what he did at work. It always kind of made sense to me, so I figured it's a pretty safe place to start. If I didn't like it, I could jump ship, and then kind of just got through the degree. I'm like, oh, well, here I am.
If all else fails, Dad will give me a job.
Yeah, exactly. And then finished my degree, and he pretty much said, get out, do it for yourself. And I was like, okay, alrighty then. Very
good. What about you, Shay? What was the lead up to your working life? What did it look like at school? Did you go to private school?
3 years at Ballerine Secondary.
Okay.
And 3 years up at St Joey's.
Okay.
So finished up at St Joey's, did my VCE there.
Yep.
Very much didn't really enjoy my academics. Liked maths and PE, and that was about it. Couldn't do English. Was not really sure whether uni was always on the cards, but had no idea what sort of degree I would lead into. So I ended up doing a year's worth of osteopathy up at Bundoora RMIT.
Okay. Yep.
Learnt that was not for me. Didn't enjoy massaging people all day, every day.
It's fun getting a massage. It's not much fun giving one.
No, really enjoyed the theory of it, learning the textbook work in there, but actually practicing it was no fun, and then the travel up there.
So you did year 12 at Joey's, then you did a year of osteopathy.
At Bundoora.
Was that the start of a degree? Like, is it an osteopathy degree?
Yeah, so it's a 5-year, 3-year bachelor, 2-year master, or some sort of equivalent to that. So it was 5 years commitment, and I pulled the plug pretty quickly. One of Dad's closest mates is a bricklayer, and he said, I'm looking for someone to mix mud and move bricks for me for a year.
I thought you were going to say he's looking for someone to massage his sore forearms.
No, so he gave me a job over the next winter, bricklaying. Thought that's definitely not for me, so back to school. Went and did a commerce degree down at Deakin.
Did you know what you were going to do when you started down the commerce path, or you just wanted to keep your options open?
No, all the subjects I did were as broad as I could put them, just because I had no idea. So the president down at the footy club at the time was a financial planner, and he just got to talking. He said, if you want to come down one day to see what it's about, come roll in. And I think I was there for 3.5 years.
So he said come down, had you started the finance side of
the course? Yeah.
Yep.
So I reckon I probably sat a couple of exams and thought, I'll finish out the degree. He caught wind that I was doing something relative in the field and just asked me to come down for a look. Had no idea what financial planning was. Thought it was accounting, thought it was investing. I thought I'd just be looking at spreadsheets all day, crunching numbers. Quickly realised it was very, very different.
Let's do your best job at actually explaining the differences between what you thought it was going to be to what it actually is.
Well, I pictured like Wall Street, just watching the markets go up and down and just rolling in the money for clients, but no, it was a lot more relationship-based, one-on-one, or dealing with families, which quickly became the enjoyment that I got out of sitting in the office, meeting new people every other day.
Was your experience the same? Did you have any idea what financial planning was before you...
I had a fair idea. When I was working with Dad, I was sitting in on client meetings and, sitting with Dad. I met a lot of his clients over the
Were you like
25-year journey.
doing some colouring in the corner
Yeah.
while you had held the appointment, or
Well, when I was young and when I was back in there a few years ago. So
Same set of crayons.
same set of crayons. Yeah, no responsibilities. It was just sit back and watch the master at work. He used to say.
your dad called himself the goat as well, did he?
Yeah, Sensei. He made me refer to him as Sensei Shane. So, yeah, it was an no. But all being serious, all things aside, I didn't understand what the vast majority of the industry was relationships and built around relationships, maintaining and fostering relationships. So, I was kind of pretty prepared for that, and probably opposite to Shay, a lot of the charts and tracking and comparisons and nitty gritty stuff. It's probably something that's come second for me in that regard. I've very much been focused on developing relationships and meeting people.
So you're a people person. Shay's had to work on that.
Yeah, and he's probably academic.
He's a numbers person.
He's a numbers
you have to
person.
work
I got to
that.
work on that. Yeah.
Fair
so
enough.
between
and
him
yang.
and I, we're both the best and worst financial planners on the planet.
So I don't know whether we explained it that well, but you guys have now, so you've joined us, you've finished your degrees, or nearly, all of your
one.
qualifications to become a financial advisor. You're in the process effective today. Today's the starting day of your professional year, is that right?
Day one, yeah.
Yep. So what does your professional year entail to become a financial advisor? What's the story?
I think we'll refer to Sam for that one. He's read the ins and outs.
No, so professional year, as it's aptly named, is 12 months of on-the-job learning. So think of it as a 1-year apprenticeship in the financial planning industry. So it's split up into the 4 quarters. After quarter 2, prior to starting quarter 3, you have to sit the fascia advisor's exam.
Or FASIA, depending on how you like to pronounce that.
There's
heard
several different ways. Considering it's an acronym, I don't think it's got a right or wrong way to be said. But so that's one of the objectives that you got to try and complete.
Whichever way it's said, it's probably good if you say it into the microphone. Though.
Into the microphone. Sorry, yeah.
Be good to pass it as well.
Wandering ahead. So yeah, and it's split up into 4 quarters. Quarter 1 and quarter 2 are pretty much just shadowing you, Jay, our supervisor, our advisor,
Sensei.
extraordinaire, dad sensei,
Professor.
So
I'll be
you,
professor.
You can be master splinter. So we got to shadow you for 12 months. Learn the ways of the financial planner and start completing a lot of the back office things. I want to say continue to complete the back office operations that we've been doing at the moment. Moving into quarter 3 and quarter 4, that's probably where we get more hands-on with doing things ourselves, having you, the advisor, check off on it, but a lot more attention goes into producing plans for people, identifying goals, objectives, completing best interest duty spreadsheets and analysis for the client. So that's 3 and 4, and then after the full 12 months, we're free to set sail into advisor land and start managing our own clients.
It's a great advertisement for a professional year. Well done. I think we could snip that out and send it off to the FPA or something like that.
AMP could use that.
Yeah, I'm looking for an AMP plug. So
we'll work on that. When you guys have already, for the clients that are listening to this, if they've been in appointments, they've probably come across you both. So you guys have already kind of started the last 12 or 18 months doing what would effectively be the same role that you're going to do in your professional year. Having now been in the financial planning industry for how long for you, Sam?
about 5 years.
Shay?
Something similar.
Yeah. So what, if anything, has surprised you about working at Burke Britton or the industry more broadly? What are the things you just were totally unexpected about either this business or the industry? And you can be honest.
Oh, well, I think just probably broadly coming in, the difference between the standards of licensees. When I say standards, the compliance measures that different licensees employ to make sure that their advisors are by the book for the clients.
So just to give that some context, so we're licensed through AMP, and your old man has a...
He's previously he is licensed through another company, Bombora.
Yep.
And probably just the difference between, whilst both are compliant by the law and meet standards, I think that AMP probably overdoes it a lot, and you can understand why it got to this way, considering the fallout of the Royal Commission. They got lambasted by the media. Consumer confidence was through the floor, and nobody wanted anything to do with AMP following that. So they've done a probably really good job of restoring consumer confidence, getting people back on board, and rebranding themselves as and escaping probably the reputation that they had. Bombora, obviously, smaller licensee with a smaller managed group of advisors. Their compliance is to standard. They do everything by the book, but there's less rigorous regulations and standards and that you've got to try and jump, the hoops that you've got to jump through to try and get anything across for clients. So I don't know. They've both got their strengths and weaknesses. They're just completely different.
What about you, Shay?
Yeah, well, like I said earlier, the strangest thing for me was learning that it wasn't about numbers, but about people. And then also, because I was at that practice in Queenscliff for 3.5 years, I thought that's all financial planning was. All financial planners were the same. They did this. Quickly learnt that's very different. And every, 3 advisors I've been to now, all 3 have been starkly different to one another in the way they have review meetings and action items outside of that review meeting, and then also generating statements of advice and things like that. So kind of adapting to the different practice, the different regulations that, like Sam touched on, that we have to jump through for each licensee practice, and as the Royal Commission came through, has been a little bit different. But yeah, I didn't really think that every practice would be so different.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I'm always curious when we have people come from other practices. I mean, I've been in the same practice and the same licensee for 20 years now.
Was there a professional year back then?
There wasn't a professional year. It was pretty much you got your authorised representative status out of a Wheaties box. I had to go to Sydney for a 2-week live-in course. I think they said that we were the worst group of financial advisors, prospective financial advisors that they've ever seen. But 20 years on, I think 3 or 4 of those advisors are still around in good standing in the industry.
Out of how many?
I think there was probably, in our course, there's probably 50. There's probably 50 in the course. There's a few that you could tell pretty quickly they weren't going to last the week. There's a few that actually exited stage left during the week. But you know, things have changed. I mean, that's probably the biggest thing that I've seen is that the industry has just changed so much towards being a profession, and you know, there's less thought that financial advisors. I mean, I know when Peter, he said it in his first podcast, he really thought, you know, there was a negative connotation around insurance. He felt like an insurance salesman, and even with the industry being really commission based or sort of trail commission heavy, we've come through that over the course of the last couple of years, where we've moved from trail commission business to a fee for service business. We've lifted our professionalism. We've lifted the areas of advice that we can actually provide advice on. The thing that, again, I think we need to work on, which I think we're pretty honest with all of our clients, like our strengths are our weakness. So the fact that we're with one of the biggest licensees in the country, from a compliance point of view, the strength is that they're ultra compliant. The strength is that the research they have access to is phenomenal. The technical team is awesome. However, it makes it pretty difficult to actually get business done. And I think that's AMP, again, for all of the negatives that they've had over the last few years, the positives are that the practices that have remained with AMP are just about the most watertight compliant practices on the planet. However, that doesn't help when it comes to actually delivering advice to people. But I think it's definitely something that the industry's aware of. I know AMP are aware of it. It's just whether or not they are nimble enough to move with the industry and evolve with it, so that, you know, as advisors we can go out and do what you said we're best at, and that is have relationships and give people advice. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I think that is on that. It's probably one of the biggest roadblocks that we as advisors have these days, is that the ability to be nimble, the ability to be able to make changes on the fly. When opportunities present themselves, we probably haven't put ourselves in the best position to be able to act quickly and help clients in that regard, primarily because of some of the things that have happened in the past, the Royal Commission. Effectively,
and also like people not doing the right thing. I mean, that's probably, we still have this legacy that sort of haunts the industry of people that have raped and pillaged their way through the industry, and we're kind of paying, and the clients ultimately we're paying we're dealing with the consequences of that now. I do firmly believe that, like, most of the shit in the industry has sort of been filtered out. Like, we're kind of left with, when there's been about a 2/3 drop off of financial advisors in the industry over the course of the last couple of years, and what's left, hopefully now, where like professional judgment and professionalism will be much more the focus rather than red tape and compliance. Well, I hope for the two of you anyway, because I think that as you guys move into planning, it'd be very nice for you guys to be in a world where financial advisors are very much recognised for their professionalism and their relationships, and not for the 120-page document that you have to produce every 12 months. But we can only keep pushing in that direction. Anything else that surprised you about the industry or this business since you came on board?
Not too much. I didn't really have a big relationship with insurance or even understand it. When you're coming through high school, it's not something you think about. It's only even lightly touched on when you're doing your degree at uni, very basically. So coming into a practice here where didn't know what a pre-assessment was, why would we bother looking at if a client has previous trauma to then see if they can get cover? So also a process that I didn't deal with at other practices. They didn't do much insurance, so that was probably a big eye-opener of how the insurance industry actually works. Insurance is probably one of the examples of the types of advice where compliance is just through the roof. And another area that is really important, but it's difficult. Like, it's actually difficult to provide advice cost effectively to people that need it around insurance. And compliantly. Which I think is a common misconception for people out there when you think, oh, I've just got to go and get some income protection or some life insurance. It's not an easy process. It can be cumbersome, and that's why in pretty much every podcast that we've done up until now, encourage people to, people have to get involved in their own circumstances and sort of to be able to make informed decisions. Anything else that's surprised you, Sam, about the industry or working specifically at Burke Britton?
Probably not surprised me as much as really appreciated whilst working here is just the relationships that have been built early. You haven't even paid me to say this. This is a PB probably given PB's energy probably flowing through to me. It's just the relationships that I've got with clients from the outset. It's kind of made the transition into sitting down face to face with clients and doing things for clients a whole lot easier. I know a lot of the time if shoes on the other foot and you come into a firm that might have disgruntled clients or might not have put the attention and work into the relationships with the clients that often a lot of things can be a lot more difficult to try and push through. So that's probably been one of the best things about working here.
Yep, good. Well, we'll fix up
Plug
later.
over.
But you're right. I mean, relationships, and it's probably what I noticed when I first got into financial planning. When I moved from like nursing to financial planning, it was funny just how many similarities there were. Like, I was not an academic at school by any stretch, but I could talk to people and I could have a relationship with people, and that flowed into financial planning. And I really didn't know anything when I started. I was literally given a book of a list of clients and Peter said, here you go, start making phone calls. And really what it was just start building relationships. Like, before you can do anything in terms of advice, you've got to have relationships, which is definitely a theme that Peter's pushed pretty hard in this business. All right, let's change tact a little bit. What was your Shay? What was your first ever investment?
Early days, when I was about 10 or 12, I'd charge mum interest to take $10 down the shops or something to buy the milk, back when cash was king.
Okay.
So 10 into 12 wasn't a bad investment. 20%, I was happy with that. But
so you're charging a 20%, a daily rate of 20%.
Yeah, well, it cost her a goldie to get that cash
credit card.
Nice. And did you just repurpose that gold coin into $1 worth of mixed lollies, or did you you save it?
Double down.
Yeah.
You can hold it for another day, Mum. You can pay that back tomorrow, but it's another goldie.
Nice.
She was too smart for that though. She wouldn't bother. So, no,
Probably paying you back.
Well, I don't think they needed to. All the clothes, food that they provided, I think that's more than enough. But no, investing, the first bit of investing I had, Dad came home with a tip from work. Perfect. So I was 18 of age, could open up a trading account. Dad showed me how to do it.
I thought this was open up a TAB account. Yeah.
Well, he's a big punter, so
yeah. Oh, mate, got this great tip. Winks. $1.01.
Yeah, 1% in a day's all right. Yeah, it had a tip for a company. It was called Wattle Health back then.
Mm-hmm.
Produced baby formula.
Yep.
Thought, why the hell would I invest in that, Dad? And I reckon it went up at least 1,000% over the course of a year. So I thought, you beauty, we'll ride this one to the moon. I'll put some money on it and through the floor.
So you put some money on it after it had raised by 1,000% or before?
After.
Welcome to investment, brother.
Yeah.
This is me sitting whilst bricklaying and shoveling a bit of mud.
So your dad gave you the tip?
Tip. Waited a year. I made sure it was a good tip. It was a good tip.
Yeah.
So I thought I'll jump on and through the floor, and to this day I've got $35 in that trading account.
Beautiful.
And we'll ride that one to the moon, and that'll keep going up.
What did you put in it? What was the initial investment?
Well, the minimum trading account's 500, so at least that.
If only.
Isn't it? That's a pretty good indication of the roller coaster of investor emotion. You get a tip and you go, I'll just wait and I'll see whether it's any good. Once you've seen that it's performed really well, then you invest at the top, and then it markets shit. It shits itself, and you end up doing your nuts.
Which is a big kind of conversation that we had prior to 30 June with a lot of clients trying to stuff money into super.
Yeah.
And a lot of people go, no, the market's no good. Wattle Health's no good at the minute. We can't put any money into that. It's just trading at a discount. It's going to get, it'll start trending the other way.
It's funny how counterintuitive like the markets are. The fact that you are more comfortable and invest when you've seen it performing really well. So you inevitably end up investing at the peak, yet you're scared when it's going down, which is when it's cheapest. It's, we should be teaching that shit at school. Do they teach investing at school?
No, I had no idea. I did an accounting unit. You probably did the accounting unit.
Yeah, I did.
I couldn't.
3-4 accounting.
Yeah, I got no idea what to do with accounting either. I didn't really remember much of it. But
it comes with my worst VCE subject.
Let's just on that. Like, if they could have taught you something at school that would have helped you in the world of managing money, what do you think they should have taught?
There's never ever, like, I did accounting, and even then it's it's all based upon like the profession of accounting rather than simply like $1. Where does $1 that you earn, where does that go? How's that distributed? If you earn $100,000, how is that distributed? Where does it go? I don't think you're taught any of that. Like all the accounting that we did was balancing a spreadsheet,
A ledger.
balancing the ledger, profit and loss statements, just wholesale company accounting rather than anything to do on a personal level, I think. So I'd imagine that, and everyone always says it, like, oh, when am I ever going to bloody need this in life? And whilst it's not always true, and I think school and academia in general is probably kind of, it's got its place because it's a way of thinking, it's thought, and it's more than just when you're going to actually use the information you learn. But I think that there could have been a whole lot of stuff that was a little bit more tailored to the individual when they're in the real world rather than out of a textbook.
So like what would
income tax? I'd never.
That's what I was thinking.
Never
Yeah.
got the idea of income tax. You earn $100, it goes in your pocket.
Yeah. Why do you pay tax? Where does it go?
Budgeting.
What's the point?
Never really considered it.
I can't remember it ever being taught.
No.
And I reckon budgeting and also how debt works, those two things, if you actually talk kids, I mean, you look at what's happening in like the US now with them talking about cancelling student debt, like their equivalent of HECS. How about we actually teach kids in primary school and high school how to manage their cash flow and and what debt is, and the fact that you actually are going to need to think about paying it off at some point in time.
Yeah, I think that like teaching, the more you speak about something, the more familiar people get with it. Obviously, it's how it works. It's the principle. With debt and things like that, we're around debt every day as financial planners. We understand how it works. We see the benefits of debt, of assets and appreciating assets, and a lot of the time those are the only assets you can get by incurring debt and borrowing money. So I think we're taught and conditioned pretty well to never be, whilst I say never be afraid of good debt. There's definitely a difference between good debt and bad debt. So I think that for us, we kind of understand that. Now, if they started teaching that a little bit more when kids are younger going through school, whilst making sure that they can easily identify the difference between a good debt and a bad debt being credit card debt, your afterpay, all those
nimble loans.
Yeah, personal loans, loans to loan sharks, things like that. The ones that are probably the best idea to stay away from, that are either life-threatening or bankrupt-inducing, and sticking probably more towards the ones that are backed by secure assets and you can pay down regularly and are affordable and are within your means as well. And teaching the differences and the importance of doing things such as that, I think, could at least open up the question, because you see so many people that backgrounds aren't in any way finance related, and their level of financial literacy is often, it's like, I know how to use my bank account, but investment, like, what is an investment market?
You can't really expect anyone to know any more than that.
No.
Knowing what we saw through going through just senior school, secondary school. If I hadn't gone to uni, if I hadn't worked here, you wouldn't know it.
Can you remember, you enjoyed maths at school.
Yep.
Can you remember the conversation around compounding? Like, did that ever... Because I remember it. That's about one of the only things that appealed to me in terms of mathematics.
You saw it go up.
Yeah. Like, if you showed kids that today and very simply showed them how compounding works with investments, I mean, that's a pretty good hook to actually get them interested in understanding investing early.
So during year 12, that's what we did. There was an aspect of maths that was, I think it was finance maths or something along those lines, and that's
Financial maths, yeah.
But that's all it was. Compounding. There was no relation to tax or anything, or ongoing installments of payment, which is quite complex in the end, which is what we do here. But there's none of that. It's just, if this is going up at 10% each year,
compounding on itself.
It's never market linked, so no, it doesn't. So whilst the principles are there, it never really teaches you how it works in the real world. And so unless you kind of link the two together in your head, in your own mind, and are around it in some regard, it probably just goes in one ear, out the other, like a lot of the things you learn at high school. So, yeah, I think just making sure that when kids are going through school, I think a lot of it could be more centered around real world scenarios. And I know it's pretty hard to have a real world scenario in a static textbook that stays the same for 15 years, but at some stage, with the age of the internet, at what stage does the old fashioned textbook kind of become a little bit obsolete and we start moving a little bit quicker?
Yeah, I agree. I think there's lots and lots of noise. The noisiest stuff that the kids listen to today are about, getting stuff. It's consumerism. It's about actually buying stuff, the next, the newest, the greatest thing there is. Probably less noise for them around investing. I think it's a pretty, in my mind, it's a pretty simple thing to do to actually, because kids are impressionable. You look how impressionable kids are through their sort of secondary years. If you can make an impression on them early about how they can make good use of money, we will end up with a generation of people that can actually manage their money well, that aren't just have lashings of debt that they can't get rid of.
Is that up to schools? Is it up to us to bring into schools, or is it up to parents? Where is it probably going to come in?
Well, I think about it with my kids, and I mean, it's my responsibility. My responsibility with my kids to go, here's what I wasn't taught at school. Would I like to see it in the school curriculum? Absolutely. So maybe and I've thought about this a lot as someone that owns a financial planning business, that we're probably in the best position to actually help develop a curriculum that could go out to schools. I mean, for the longest time, the curriculum that has been pushed in schools has been like the Dolomite accounts. I know the Barefoot Investor's pretty hot on that, in that really that's just a data collection exercise to indoctrinate kids to be able to send them credit cards when they're 18. It's not really, other than putting a little bit of money aside, there's not really the explanation to kids about how to manage money basically. But it's a combination. Like, personal responsibility is important. Kids, it's pretty hard to tell a 6-year-old that they need to take personal responsibility. But as financial advisors who advise parents who have kids, I mean, that's one of the reasons why whenever we're talking to our clients, we encourage them to involve their kids and involve like if they've got young kids, get them understanding what investment actually looks like. I think I mentioned this on one of our previous podcasts that very early on, Peter said to me, listen, if you've got $1,000, I'll match it with another $1,000, but we have to put it into an investment that you can't touch, and you have to put $100 a month in every month routinely from your pay. I went, okay. And from that, I started to get an appreciation of the fact that you could put money aside before you actually kind of got it, and that it didn't get caught up in your sort of daily expenses. And that money that I put away from, I don't know, it was probably from 16 onwards, paid deposit on my first home, paid for a wedding, paid for an engagement ring for my wife, paid for Europe trips. And this was just an effect of making small, regular contributions over a long period of time. And that lesson has stuck. Like, that lesson actually stuck, and it sort of rings true today. So that's, I think everyone could probably benefit from some similar early stage advice. Would you agree, Sam?
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I think that probably the lesson that's rang most true to me is, especially in the current market, the way it is, it's a lot of doom and gloom amongst investors and forecast analysts, is just the small regular contributions that accrue and generate over time, and it's just that compounding interest effect. So, as you mentioned, probably two of the three major life steps that anyone would probably encounter in their effective youth, that being buying your first home and getting married. Probably the third one would probably be having kids, I would have thought. I'm not quite there yet. In fact, haven't been married yet either. So a little bit on the way away from that yet, but I think a lot of those things are made possible and made easier with just such a small, easy thing such as regular investment. Because I think bankrolling anything such as a wedding or a first home is it's often, again, especially considering today's environment of high interest rates, high housing prices. It's always difficult to kind of get into the market. But if you had have started that regular saving 10, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, I guess, depending how old you are, I think there's a good chance that you'd probably be on the right path and a long way to having that first home deposit.
So how do we compete with telling kids boring things like have a budget, manage your cash flow, invest regularly, when they're hearing about crypto and NFTs and get rich quick schemes? So how do you guys think about that world, the world of sort of crypto, NFTs, and what young kids today are presented with in terms of the ability to make money from these things? What do you think, Shay?
Definitely put in front of you a little bit more. Jump on Facebook. No one's talking about the price of Commonwealth Bank shares. It's jump on a crypto. It's easy to open up a wallet or something like that. All you need is $10 and you can start going. I mean, it is extremely accessible for anyone to jump on and do it. Crypto paid for a pair of footy boots this year, so
It did.
it was a nice pair of footy boots, so I'm not too unhappy with it. But
What type of footy boots were they? Blades?
ASICs.
ASIC blades?
Two brands of footy boots.
Yeah, they're not blades.
Rolled into one, I reckon.
You're talking X blades.
Okay. It's been 20.
Been a while.
It's been 20 years since I played footy, so
Yeah.
You're excused this time.
Yeah, but it's very much forefront for young people who are on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook to just see it. It probably is up to schools or parents to make maybe whatever they're doing a bit more inclusive to the kids. Obviously, you're not going to bring your kids in and show them what you got in super. It's a bit strange and you don't necessarily need them to do that. But like PB did with you, putting a couple dollars in, just match whatever they're going to do, their pocket money. So you're going to have $10 pocket money, but 5 of it's going into your investment or something along those lines.
Yep. What are the areas of advice that you guys think that you're sort of most interested in, or you could see yourselves specialising in as you move through your careers in financial planning?
I think Sam would be insurance. Would be.
I don't mind insurance. I think that if there's a means of simplifying the whole rigours and calculations that go along with it, that a lot of the time once they're calculated on today's date, by tomorrow they're out of date. So I think if there's a means of simplifying that to ensure that it's a little bit easier to kind of get things across the line, then I'd 100%. There's definitely something I'd be interested in doing because it's so important for clients. But I'm interested the most probably in gearing and debt recycling and things like that, and different strategies that you can employ or deploy to kind of maximise your wealth using the assets that you've already got. So much like the effects of compounding interest, when you've got an asset, you've got capital and equity built up in an asset, being able to access that, draw it in and repurpose it into maybe a portfolio of shares, or maybe you could buy another an investment property or something like that based upon your home as the primary security. I think being able to do that is a really good way of building generational wealth and investing and creating something that you can then pass down to your kids, or you can use to fund whatever dreams and aspirations you've got later on down the line.
Nice. So in 12 months' time, when you finish your professional year, anyone looking for gearing and insurance advice, Sam Coutts is your man.
I'm your man.
That's it. What about you, Shay? What's sort of the areas of advice or finance that you could see yourself focusing on most when you're in planner land?
Probably the biggest area that I've been involved in the various firms I've been with is just developing the portfolios, which I've always taken an interest in. I came in thinking that it would just be numbers and graphs and the like, so I definitely gravitated there. But like Sam said, I don't mind the insurance side. I think I find it quite beneficial to assist the clients with that. It was easier to prepare that sort of advice years and years ago, before Royal Commission and the red tape came in. I think gradually that'll slide away a bit and it'll become more comfortable to provide that advice again and again. So I think as Sam and I progress through as planners, that'll become a bit easier. We'll become more used to it and just get a better process all around it. So I don't mind kind of leading down that path a little bit.
What sort of role do you think automation and AI is going to play in sort of portfolio construction? Because I know that, for a long time, it's been a very manual process to actually put together and then alter people's portfolios. What do you reckon the future is going to look like there?
Well, there's plenty of index funds, if that's what you're on the money about. So a share index fund that would just average in the 200 highest shares on the ASX 200, and then if one drops out, it just reshuffles them the next day. So there's plenty of those around for property, bonds, Oz shares, whatever the case may be. It's obviously one way to look at it, very cost-effective way of doing it, but very much trending with market. So if you're looking to generate more income, more growth, probably do have to look to the active aspect of it.
Yep. Let's take another left turn and let's talk about what's something, Sam, that's interesting about you that people might not know, that I might not know.
Interesting.
It actually has to be genuinely interesting.
What's interesting about me? Other than probably
maybe an interest that not many people are aware of, or something you've done in the past that maybe you're ashamed of. Last one was a joke, but
okay. I was about to rattle one off, but I might save that. Save confessing my sins to my employer. Hey,
there's probably better ideas, I think.
Yeah. No, interesting thing about me. I'd say I'm pretty straight up and down. Would have thought. I know, like I'm a.
Jeez, if you're straight up and down, what am I?
No, so like.
Have you got any special talents? Is there any special talents that we should be aware of?
No, I play a bit of cricket, but at a relatively high level. It's just local cricket though, so it's nothing special, nothing major. But I just kind of enjoy everything that I do. I feel like that if there's things out there that I might not like as much, which there is, I kind of do my best to find a means of.
Is that paperwork?
What Sam's saying is that there's really nothing interesting about him. Is that right?
On the spot, I'm pretty straight up and down person, JB. I reckon. What's interesting about you? What's something interesting about you?
Something interesting about me.
Cat named Joe Rogan.
A dog named Jocko. I was a lead guitarist in a metal band called Pink Bits when I was 14.
Any notable songs?
TNT. We played at the Talent Quest, Year 8 Talent Quest.
Winners?
No, we didn't win, actually. I think that we probably offended a few people.
Did you ever write any of your own music?
I did write some of my own music. I can't really maybe share much of it on the podcast, but I certainly did. And maybe at another time we can enjoy a little bit of my
Pink
music.
Bits.
Yeah. Well, we've got a few other songs there. What about you, Shay? Anything interesting about you, or you straight up and down like your mate Sam?
Yeah, very, very straight up and down.
No secret talents?
No, I was trying to rattle one off while Sam was
stalling,
rambling about, but
you don't know you don't know another language, or
I think I did Indonesian until I was about 7 or 8. So
you got any Indonesian phrases you can share with us?
No.
Okay.
Namaste.
That's not quite. You'd be one to have one, wouldn't you? You go there every other
Well,
every other year.
Indonesian's not Balinese, mate.
International man of leisure.
Who?
You,
Me?
yeah.
Am I?
Jet set around the world.
I have been known to, yeah. But
I've got something cool that I did.
okay, let's hear it.
So if you Shay'd probably be aware, there's a band called Skeggs. There's a band called Skeggs. So they're just like an Aussie kind of alternate rock band kind of thing. And so they came down Geelong and played at the Barwon Club. This would have been, I'm talking 2017, I reckon. So I was first year out of school and anyway, so they came down and played at the Barwon Club. I was like, how sick's this? These guys are going to be huge, and they're playing in my hometown at the Barwon Club. And so I, front and centre, of course, front and centre. I'm 6'4", I'm bopping away, I'm way too tall for everyone else. No one can see past me. I'm probably 75 kilos, dripping wet, but just taking up the whole front row. Anyway, I yell out to the Skeggs crew, do a shoey, because that's what you do. You see Daniel Ricciardo doing shoeys after he wins an F1 race, and then
He's only done it once.
After he gets sacked by McLaren.
yeah, we'll watch him do it for Haas this year.
Hopefully he's not watching.
Yeah. Daniel Ricciardo, if you are listening in,
He actually is a regular listener.
He's big fan. But instead he grabbed my shoe, and then he grabbed me by the wrist, pulled me on stage, and I did a shoey on stage with Skeggs, followed by a stage dive. Got carried through the crowd as well, and it's all on film.
Maybe we could overlay this on YouTube, overlay the video of you doing a shoey in this section on YouTube.
Yeah, it was awesome. Truly was. In terms of interesting facts about me, that's probably the most interesting that I'm willing to share.
Do you have anything more
moment.
compelling than that, Shay?
No, not really. The last 2 years of being adults and out of high school, we've been locked inside. It's been pretty few and far between of finding things to do. Probably could have taken that time to
Read a book?
Learn something, do another language, or...
I was going to ask you, what was the last book you read? I know for you, Shay, you haven't read one. Sam?
Gary Lyon's great Specky McGee. Thank you very much.
Okay, sorry. Yeah.
I reckon that'd be about mine as well. No, I listened to
Elite Ownership?
Epic Ownership, your favourite book. That was it was gifted to me via Amazon Prime Listen, whatever it is.
Audible.
Amazon Audible. There we go. So
Close.
Gifted to me. I genuinely went away, much to your dismay and disbelief. I went away over the summer break. It was written in a nice little card to me. Sam, your challenge for this summer is to listen to that and take away what you will. My biggest regret was stuffing up that name of that book once and then being ridiculed and denied that I'd listened to it. And so mate, I got through about 8 hours of the 10 hours, and I'd say that's listened enough, I think.
Okay, he's just admitted that he didn't listen to it all.
Staunchly said that I've listened to 8 out of the 10 hours. 80%'s good enough.
All right. Well, while we're on favourite things, we'll close it out with this. Any favourite, you guys podcast listeners or not?
Yeah, I am.
Yep.
A pretty standard Dill and Friends or Howie Games.
Say that again.
Dill and Friends, Dylan Buckley's podcast.
No, don't know it.
Dylan Buckley played, and he's a huge fan of this show as well. I'll flick this episode to him, and he might give us a plug as well, because I know he's a massive fan.
Yeah.
He played footy very briefly for Carlton, and when I say briefly, he was on the list for about 8 to 10 years and played 40 odd games. Self-proclaimed pissant. And then went up to GWS to have a kick at the pigskin around there. But now he's back doing a very successful podcast. I think if you'd have a look, it'd be close to number one in the country. And he just brings different football and sport and identities, personalities onto his show, and has a candid discussion with them. And I just think that the way he goes about it and the way that he interviews, he's always so interested, and he really gets the best out of his conversations with these identities. So that's probably my number one. There's obviously Joe Rogan Experience. When I was living in Melbourne, I usually have up and down from Melbourne probably 2 or 3 times a week. So it gave me plenty of time to sit back and tune into the Joe Rogan Experience. I obviously liked all the comedians that came on, but then people that are real academics and specialise in their area, and they just know so bloody much about just the most obscene things, and you're like, there is no chance I'd ever be able to like fit all of this knowledge in my brain. Like these guys know.
Any examples of people you know? Neil deGrasse Tyson?
Yeah, and like Stamets, the mushroom guy. And he was climbed to the top of the tree and told the story about when he had this massive psychedelic experience and got like zapped by lightning or something like that. And I'm like, that's probably why he's so clever.
Yeah.
Just electroshocks through his brain would have killed some people, but for Paul Stamets, he's just a legend in the mushroom world. He's a fun guy. I'm supposed to look down the barrel of the camera when I say that, aren't I?
That's right.
I'm glad we moved desks, mate. I can't listen to that anymore.
Shay, you listen to any podcasts or not?
Other than finances, of course. No, I don't really get into the podcast world.
So you don't.
I've tried to listen.
You don't read. You don't listen. What do you do other than work here?
Eat for one.
Play
football.
a lot of eating, a lot of golf. I could probably podcast whilst golfing would be an easy way to go about it. Put the AirPods in or something along those lines. But no, like I'll pick a couple podcasts to listen to of people that interest me. So a couple of Howie's games that he has.
What's Howie's games? Is that the same? Is that is Dylan Buckley's podcast?
No,
it's different. Mark Howard from Barnhead's Triple M commentator, I think.
Oh, okay. Big Fox footy operator.
Okay.
So he had Gilly, Nathan Buckley, the likes of them on. So they're quite interesting to listen to, but then he has some that just completely disinterest me, and he's lost me for a few years now. But no, I don't religiously jump into anyone's podcast, no.
Okay. I reckon that's enough, guys. We've got an hour and 10 minutes of talking absolute rubbish. So
not a lot of content in here, or you reckon you'll get something out of it?
You could have got more rubbish, I think.
I think there's
I could keep going.
I think
I could keep going.
I think I think people are starting to gather that Sam talks a lot and Shay
very good listener.
Listens. Yin and yang.
Chalk and cheese.
All right. Anything else you want? Any other closing comments?
Nah, none from me.
Shay?
No, thanks for having us on.
Oh, listen, it's an absolute pleasure. I can't wait to have you both back on in coming episodes. I'm sure that
maybe we do quarterly updates of our PY.
That'll be riveting.
Yeah.
Or we could watch the grass grow.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you're keen to understand more about how financial advice could benefit you, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Burke Britton FP, or Google Burke Britton Financial Partners. Check out our client reviews, testimonials, and make a time to meet one of our certified financial planners by clicking Book Now on our website. Thanks for listening.
Any information contained in this podcast is of a general nature only. No account was taken as to the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. Therefore, before making any decision, listeners should consider the appropriateness of any information with regard to their particular objective, financial situation, needs, and seek independent advice from a licensed professional specific to their circumstances.
All right, hit it.
That translates to don't be a moron and act on what some random person says on a podcast. Take personal responsibility, do your homework, ask questions, and speak to an actual human that knows what they're talking about before you do anything. PP Financial Solutions Proprietary Limited, trading as Burke Britton Financial Partners, are authorised representatives of AMP Financial Planning Limited, AFS, licence number 232706.